Good afternoon or good morning, whenever you're watching this. But let's dive into our sixth trip of this class. We're going to study an estuary. Your trip is to Boyd Hill Nature Preserve and Lake Magori, which the nature preserve is in St. Petersburg by the Skyway. They have a large nature center, butterfly garden, aviary, and nature trails going through many different Florida habitats. Because it is an estuary, Lake Magori is connected to Tampa Bay through Salt Creek, and there is varying degrees of maritime influence. So when you leave the nature center, you'll be walking through Butterfly Garden. I included in this slide several species of the plants that I've observed there over the years. So see if you can find them, identify them. There's others, you can add them. If you can get pictures of the butterflies flying around, that would be fantastic. See how many you can identify and include them in your species observed list. Visit the aviary, which after you leave the butterfly garden, there you'll see wild coffee growing. I will try to include things like this in our video trip that we produce. And I've included a list of the birds that are full-time residents there. So include them in your list and anything else that you see on the way there. Take the main trail, look for and try to identify your laurel oak, marlberry, the sugar maple, and the live oak. Sugar maple has 5 lobes to it. It's also called the silver maple. The Swamp Woodlands Trail, you'll see the red maple. You'll enter a bald cypress swamp. Bald cypress are the only evergreens that lose their needles, hence the term bald. Neat thing about the sour orange, if you see it, it is Spanish. When they colonized the Florida, they let loose and planted many of their native animals and plants. Let loose the pig and things like that because they wanted game to hunt. They planted citrus and other things. They ran into a problem with the citrus because we have nematodes, which are types of worms, in our soil, and they attack and kill sweet citrus root because it's tasty, but they didn't eat the sour. So all the wild citrus was sour. We get around that because we use grafting and cloning techniques and use the sour orange roots to drive away the nematodes and the sweet orange stems and grafts to get the desirable fruit that we have. So that's how we do it in Florida. Stay away from that water hemlock if you observe any, because that is a poisonous plant that grows in Florida. When you cross the Oak Bridge, there'll be laurel oaks left, and live oaks right. Remember now, the live oaks have the sprawling branches and very deep furrows in their bark. Take a look at that. Laurel oaks have much straighter trunks and branches and smoother bark. So that's our 2 species of oaks that we generally see on our barrier islands. We're going to learn another species of oak today as well. When you go through the willow marsh, that's a good, more freshwater estuary. You'll see the wax myrtle like we always see, and the sawgrass. You might observe alligators, and then identify your pine types as well. The main trail, back to the main trail, and head toward the island. When you get to the island, keep your eye out for painted leaf going there. Different ferns. There's bananas growing on the little bridge to the island, so you'll notice some bananas. Giant leather ferns, We've seen those giant swamps and leather ferns there. The fragrant water lilies are the white flowered lilies. Sometimes you see the yellow flowered lilies. That's called spatterdock. A whole bunch of emergent cattails. That's analogous to the spartina in the salt marsh. In the open marsh, the emergent grass type is the cattails. A lot of apple snails there, freshwater snails. You'll see a lot of them washed up. Our Lake Magori is an eelgrass community that's analogous to the seagrass, an estuary eelgrass community. Then there's one mystery mangrove growing on that island that you're going to need to identify. So make your way to the mystery mangrove, check it out, check out its leaves, its roots, and figure out what type of mangrove it is. I'll be looking that special on your lab write-up because that's you identifying mangroves is an important aspect. Make sure you're logging all the species you see, not just the ones that I'm pointing out in this little video pre-lab, because you may or may not run into something from this pre-lab. This is just things that I commonly see there. When we produce our video, we'll see more, and then you might go on a different day and see something else. Now, an estuary, Lake Magori is an estuary. It was formed by a sinkhole. About 15,000 years ago, this was center state, not coastal. So Magori would have been one of the main sources of fresh water. There's a lot of Native American artifacts, which anthropologists love. There's also a lot of fossils from the megafauna, glyptodons, large sloths, mammoth, mastodon, that paleontologists love. So it's got a rich history as well, and it was very polluted, and it's been restored, dredged, restored. We participated in a fish population study with the Fish and Wildlife. I'm going to include a Fish and Wildlife video that we helped produce in the video trips, and you're to include those fish and organisms. There'll be eelgrass, there'll be things like that in your species list as well. So you'll be seeing pictures of the different fish of Lake Magori, some fresh, some saltwater, some estuary fish. You'll be seeing things like that, and include them because, you're not going to go scuba diving or dredging Lake Magori, so these organisms are just under the surface, and the only way you're going to see them is via video. So, these estuaries are very, very important for reproduction. They're the cradles of the ocean. Most of our larger ocean creatures enter estuaries to reproduce. Estuaries are in danger due to eutrophication, fertilizers and pesticides polluting, sewage, another eutrophication, dredge and fill operations, and of course, coastal development threatens our estuaries. Then, after you leave the island, head toward the sand scrub. This is a unique old Florida, they're called dune relics. They're old sand dunes, but not from beach. They've been windswept. Florida was a different habitat when we were in the middle of the state, and we were semi-arid, and we had some patches of almost desert. And as climate changed and the glaciers retreated, these old windswept dunes, and we know they're windswept because under a microscope they're frosted and cracked from wind, are a unique dry, xeric, meaning dry habitat. The turkey oak is a really cool oak. We'll videotape some turkey oak. You got a gopher tortoise apron. Who knows? We might have some live footage of the gopher tortoise if I don't scare it away like I did the last trip. So there's a lot of unique habitats. You're going to be visiting the willow marsh, an estuary island, a cypress swamp, a dune relic sand scrub, all at Lake Magori, all these cool Florida and coastal habitats. So as you walk through, get as many organisms, kind of get the feel for it, which one's hydric, meaning wet, which one's xeric, meaning dry. Mesic means in between. Kind of get a feel for the abiotic factors and how they determine what lives there. Now on your cover, cover obviously, description, weathers, tides, abiotic factors. You're going to have a few here because like I said, some will be hydric. Well, obviously the island, you're going to have a water influence or the willow marsh. Whereas in the dune relics, it's going to be drier. So go ahead and expand on it when you do your write-up. List which habitat was it in? Was it in a dune relic like the turkey oak? Was it on the island like the mangrove? And then answer the questions. Include any references outside like you do. Always include them. And enjoy it. Boyd Hill is really a fantastic place to go visit. It's a lot of fun. And enjoy your coastal habitats.